I've been in a weird position with this Florida State thing. As you know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came on the air when Jordan Travis got hurt. And I said, there is no way you keep Florida State out if they go undefeated. I don't care what else happens. I don't care what the criteria is. You don't keep them out, because I am not a big fan of playoff committee people assigning value to a football player. I don't care how much you think he's worth. I don't care what you think Florida State is without him. If they go undefeated, they belong in. Well, then, when the dust settled, I came on the show and they put Alabama in over Florida State, and I said, I actually think that they made the right move, but I really don't think there was a right move to be made. I just think they made a move. So a lot of you said, well, how is that not hypocrisy? Well, it kind of is. It kind of is, because 2 weeks ago, I'll just be honest with you, I thought other things were going to sort themselves out. I believe in the principle of what I said. Haven't changed on that a bit. What I did was I thought more about it in the week leading up, and I thought about it from a different angle, okay? So I think the playoff committee left Florida State out because he's hurt. There's no doubt in my mind about that. I thought about it from a pure resume comparison standpoint. I thought Bama's resume after the win against Georgia and seeing him in person and all that stuff, I thought Bama's resume was better than Florida State. That's where I thought they should have been in over Florida State. So you guys either agree with me or disagree with me. I know all Florida State folks disagree with me on that. That's fine. I would ask that you don't take the added step of thinking there's some like corrupt subplot or there's some reason behind the screen, ulterior motive why I feel that way. I'll tell you why I feel that way. I feel that way because it's just the way I feel. There's no directive from CBS handed down from me or to me to feel that way. But I'll address that in a second. Anyway, I also agree with Florida State folks a lot, though. So that's where my unique position is, because I'm only like 51%, 49% on the Bama side to begin with, because obviously there's a valid argument to be made for Florida State, and a lot of you have been making it. The Florida State folks, a lot of the Florida State folks are mad because they think the committee changed the rules in the middle of the game, and I cannot disagree with them. I think that's exactly what happened. You know, I had a theory on this whole thing that I think the committee was baking expectations into their rankings. They expected you to lose. They expected Bama probably to lose to Georgia. They expected Oregon to beat Washington. And frankly, I think it was reflected in their rankings because their rankings really didn't align to begin with going into conference championship weekend if you just went off resume. So that was in the cards. But that's not really, I think, what bends you the most out of shape. What bends you the most out of shape if you're a Florida State fan or you think they belonged in is you think that they looked at all the criteria and then they just decided to override it anyway. And there's valid reason to feel that way. And that's largely reflected in your emotion. But then Uncle Dennis Dodd, goes and puts a piece up on CBSSports.com, I think yesterday, and he quotes an anonymous source. I believe, Jesse, it was on the playoff committee, and there's a lot of words on your screen right now, but I'm going to read you the most important part. So if you're watching on YouTube, several excerpts from Uncle Dennis's piece are here. If you're listening on podcast, here's all you need to hear. It was gut-wrenching, a committee member told CBS Sports under the condition of anonymity. For me individually, I evaluated whether FSU whether they could make it through and win a national championship with the team they had. Now, I'm telling you, as a person who thought Bama should have been in over Florida State, it is complete garbage. If that was the methodology that anyone, much less an entire committee, used to keep Florida State out, it's garbage. I'm just sitting here telling you I thought the resume was better, and I'm acknowledging even Florida State being undefeated in a Power 5 league with a conference championship under their belt. I thought this was the one unique circumstance where there were one-loss conference champs in front of them that I just flat out thought had better resumes. But what I never told you was I think they should be out because Travis is hurt. And I'm certainly never going to tell you I think they should be out because, well, I think I know they would or wouldn't be successful in the postseason. It's such a garbage take. And even if I had tried to defend that committee beforehand, when you got that being said, like, they didn't have to say that. They could have lied to Dennis and just said, oh, no, we followed the same protocols we always have. It was anonymous, but it was still trash. So any Florida State fan who wants to take issue with that, I'm going to line up next to you, even though we don't even agree on what the outcome of the 4 should have been. But if that's the methodology that was used, it's garbage. Here's my question. So to move past that, I'm not even defending the committee anymore. Okay, that's indefensible. I can't defend that. I can think they put the right 4 in, but think they did it for the wrong reasons, if that makes any sense. I know that sounds very discombobulated, but that's where my heart's at on this. Now, there's a follow-up I want to ask. Colin, I believe, Jesse, I think I sent you this, a screenshot of a tweet I put out earlier today, because I'm still not calling it X. Yeah, here it is. So, little backstory here, and I think some of you may have participated in this. If you haven't, just follow along. As you could imagine, there has been robust conversation and some fairly toxic discourse between the people who maybe thought the committee went the right way and Florida State fans, or anyone who thought Florida State should have been in. Now, some people have just agreed to disagree. That has taken a back burner to the more popular sentiment, and that sounds a little something like this. If you think that Alabama should have been in over Florida State, you are a corporate shill, you are a shill for the SEC, you are a sellout, you're bought and paid for, you're part of some ulterior motive, you are corrupted, you don't have the best interest of the game at heart, blah, blah, blah. I don't doubt some of you feel that way. And hey, I can't even prove that there may not be some bad actors out there. I don't know. I am qualified to judge my heart on this. I'm qualified to be brutally honest with you on this. And so none of those descriptions fit me. And I do think Alabama should have been in. So we disagree on the outcome, but I put this out on Twitter earlier today. I said, is it possible for good-intentioned, logical people to simply disagree on college football? And I got largely the kind of responses you would expect. The point I'm trying to make there is the insinuation amongst some, I think albeit a radical minority, but some, is if you think anything other than FSU should have been number 4, you are one of those descriptors I just listed. In other words, there's no way that someone could just think Alabama belonged in, period. There's got to be something before the period. There's got to be they work for ESPN, or the fix was in, or it's all politicized. And I can't speak for anyone else. I'm just telling you, I hold the opinion Bama should have been in. And I don't work for ESPN. I hold the opinion Bama should have been in. And hey, here's a little secret. You want me to fill you in on some financial details of our show? Our internals actually show Florida State would have been more profitable for us than Alabama making the playoff. Now, I think that blows your mind a little bit because you think, well, Bama's got the bigger fan base. That's true, but Bama's been to the playoff a million times, so their fans are already baked into our audience regardless. Our research has shown if a new team makes it, you get a massive 300, maybe 400% influx of new viewership. So, full disclosure, it would have been better for us if Florida State made it. I don't really care about any of it. Believe it or not, we got a philosophy around here that we're just going to say what we think. And sometimes it's going to be popular, sometimes it's not. But I would caution you, because I used to do this in baseball a lot, and it just applies to college football as seamlessly as it does baseball or NFL or anything else. I used to sit at home in Fortson, Georgia. I was a Braves fan, Falcons fan, like I was a big pro sports fan. And so I would watch the coverage of my teams, and I would pick up with those antenna ears of mine. Anytime someone spoke less than glowingly about my team, it was anti-Braves hatred. It was anti-Falcons. They hated Atlanta, etc., etc. And I would have sworn to you, I would have bet every dollar, and there weren't many of them in my pocket, but I would have bet every dollar there was just something bigger in play. And so then I got on the other side of the curtain in college football. And I've watched the sausage get made. Most of the people you're accusing of this sort of thing, I know personally. I talk to them off the record. I know when they do have a vested interest in an outcome. Sometimes we joke about it. I will say this generically, because I'm not mentioning any names in particular. You're throwing some people under the bus, and you don't really know what you're talking about. I'm not speaking holistically. I'm speaking very generically. There are some people whose names are being thrown under the bus, and if you really knew, you'd come to understand they couldn't care less who's in or who's out. They're genuinely speaking what they feel to be the best course of action when it comes to the Final Four teams it should have been in. I know that doesn't sound good. I know it doesn't traffic well on message boards, and I'm not telling you that there are no bad actors in the mix. I'm not telling you networks don't get involved sometimes. I'm not telling you this is not political. There are a lot of double negatives there. I'm not totally downplaying a lot of your accusations. I am saying there's some individuals whose names I've seen drug through the mud, not the least of which is mine. I'm okay with what you say about me, but there are some other people who I know for a fact are sort of on the same side of this as me and just thinking, hey, we just think the best four got put in or the most deserving or whatever we want to phrase that as now. And that's not the popular public sentiment at the moment. The other thing, as we move on here, the other thing that I just want to reiterate yet again, if you're a Florida State fan or you think they should have been put in, another totally valid criticism that you guys are talking about is there was a shift in the committee's protocol, which there was, and it was spoken, again, voluntarily spoken on the record by Bill Hancock. I raised the alarms 2 weeks ago when the dude said to Heather Dennett, Shay, we don't even know what most deserving means. It's not in our lexicon. It's about the best. When that happened, and when it happened, I said, if they stick to this, then it will deviate from their past protocols. Okay, that was a red herring. That was sort of the old canary in the coal mine that lets you know some of the conspiracy theories out there may be accurate. There's a conspiracy, for example, that just may be fact, that they watched that Georgia TCU game and somewhere in a dark, dark corner of a room, they met and said, never again. We are not putting a team in just because we solely think they deserve it. If this is the grand result, if we have sold major nine-figure advertising against this game, and we have to look our advertising partners in the eye and say, sorry about 65-7. If we ever have to do that again, every one of you is fired. Get us 4 legitimate brands. Get us 4 legitimate teams. Some of you think that happened. And when I see the course correction in the methodology, I cannot completely disagree with you. I think there may be some validity to that. Now, again, I'm telling you, I think the proper 4 got put in. But if they got put in because of that, if they got put in because of what TCU did last year, if they got put in because of television ratings, if they got put in because of anything other than they had the 5th best resume or the 4th best resume, I don't agree with the methodology. Don't agree with it at all. And I would have sat here if FSU got put in and said, I would have put Bama in. I'm okay with it. I would have put Bama in because that's kind of how on the fence I was about it to begin with. But yeah, you guys have reason to be outraged over this. If what Dennis put in that article is true, and I have every reason to believe it is, and if what we saw in course correction from last year to this year is as it appears, you got every reason to be outraged. Because if that's what happened, you got screwed. Plain and simple.